All right, everybody. Joey and Nate here. Dixie Doggers podcast coming at you again. Trying to just keep these things rolling out. I know we're saying that on every one of them. I guess that's my own mentality to keep me, keep a positive vibe and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. We have had some great guests on, and we've got a little stockpile going up to where we can keep these pumped out a couple times a week. So make sure you keep that earpiece in while you're at work, so you can hear what we're talking about. We have a guest with us today that is, he has done a huge amount in a short amount of time that I can tell, like for social media, YouTube and things like that. He's catches big hogs. He catches a lot of hogs. He does a lot of things that's not, I don't know. It's kind of not like really normal for most hog hunters.
Yeah,
for most
he ain't
hog
scared
doggers.
to try something new.
Yeah, he does a lot of things new, especially like the stuff with the dogs that he's doing. Man, y'all have to check all his stuff out and see. So without further ado, the world famous, world renowned Justin Becker, Not Normal Adventures. Here we go.
Glad to be here. It's an honor.
Yes, sir, man. We're glad to have you on here. So
yes.
Tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about yourself, Justin, and maybe get into your social media stuff and just how you started and where you're going.
So, well, as y'all mentioned, I'm Justin Becker and owner-operator of Not Normal Adventures. There really wasn't much thought behind it. I had a buddy of mine got me talked into doing YouTube, long story short, and I never had any intentions on videoing all of our hunts outside of like sharing it for what we video ourselves. Me and my wife have always videoed our hunts, like our deer hunts and things, and just kept it to ourselves, not wanting to share it, but it's just always nice having those memories. And because her dad videoed all their hunts growing up. And so long story short, we got talked into it, and basically, we started YouTube and it blew up from there. Long story short, we blew up dramatically. I never expected for any of our social media handles, which Not Normal Adventures on Instagram, Facebook, and then YouTube, blew up in such a short amount of time. It was breathtaking, needless to say. It's awesome. We've met some awesome people through it. And, it's the world that we're evolving around now of what social media can do for an individual's life anymore. You got people making a living off of it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we were at a point where we could make a living off of it, but we got there pretty close, pretty quick until YouTube basically just started to shadow ban us and then kept demonetizing us after we got to a point where we were able to get monetized. But that's later on into this. But I've been a dog man my whole life, born and raised around it. My dad, when I was a young age, grew up around running deer dogs. And my dad passed away when I was young, had a heart attack. And so after my dad passed away, I continued to run dogs with my grandpa and basically the rest of the family. And over the years, as I got older, slowly started getting into the hog dogging, started going with some cousins. And once I got into the hogwoods and put my hands on my first hog ever, I've been hell bent since.
Yeah, that was it. That's
hard
it.
to shake it.
Yeah, man. And so, so how many years you think now has it been since you started running hog dogs?
I've been hog hunting since I was roughly, probably 12 years old, maybe 11 years old, and I'm 32 now.
I got you. Okay, so yeah, you've been at it a while. I'm almost 32 years old. I see. I was 26 yesterday. I'll get it right. One of these things, I kind of subtract, multiply, divide, square root, whatever I got to do.
I was just about to say, you're probably turning 21 next week.
Yeah, that's it, buddy. Hey, old Benjamin Buttons here. But no, man, roll into, get us going on something that you got going, maybe with the dogs or hunts or whatever,
The things we got going on right now, we started up a new YouTube channel, and the new YouTube channel is the same name, Not Normal Adventures. We shut down our old channel, which, was very heartbreaking. It was very hard for me to do because And like in the longevity of it, we were just short of 2 years, and we grew our channel to just shy of 45,000 subscribers.
Wow.
But at the same time, there was 180 days of that where we were demonetized, where we didn't upload any videos. So,
Man.
you know, do the math on 2 years minus 100 days. You know, that was pretty quick as far as how fast our channel blew up. So that was pretty disheartening, you know, basically starting from ground zero, starting all the way over.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we still had our Facebook and our Instagram, but it's a slow evolving thing of trying to get that YouTube back to where we were, you know.
It seems like it's really hard to get it back like that once you get knocked down the first time. Like we, you know, of course, like I said, we've never got real big or none of that. We've always kind of just tried to stay under the radar, if you will, and until here recently, you know. But we went through a similar situation. We lost our channel, and man, it was just, I don't know, like you said, it knocks the wind out of you, and it doesn't seem like it ever jumps back, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Because so we had the first time we got demonetized, and the thing with YouTube is like they don't even explain to you what you've done wrong. Like they don't even tell you.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
Like,
Merry Christmas, we deleted your shit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, they don't tell us what the issue is, and I try to keep my channel as clean as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And the style of hunting that I do anyways, there's not very many times where the dogs are like ragging on a hog.
Yeah.
And so, you know, with that being said, I really don't ever show that on the channel. I try to keep anything to a bare minimum to an extent, but I still wanted to show the truth behind what hog hunting is, or just being a dog man in general, because we had a lot more to come with it, you know, because I run deer dogs and everything else. But it was like, as soon as we get to where we could try to do something different, we got shut down.
Yeah.
So, you know, between adding like what we do with turkey hunting and then our deer hunting and then going fishing, like it seemed like every time you turn in the chapter, try to add a little more other than hog hunting, because you don't want to upload a turkey hunting video in the middle of summer when ain't nobody going to watch it.
Exactly. And there's a lot of people that do that.
You try to play the season to what you're uploading.
Yeah.
But so we tried to switch over to the Rumble deal. And I mean, so Rumble actually reached out to us, never even heard of Rumble. They reached out to us, wanted us to start uploading on there, and told us basically we can upload whatever we wanted. And so we tried that. We gave it a shot. And I mean, I don't know. They're like the Harbor Freight version of, you know, the social media and the YouTube. And not to mention, we went from 40,000 something subscribers to 1,500 people went to Rumble. You know, like it's just it's an inconvenience to anybody to have to go to a different platform, especially when YouTube kind of runs it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go on there and learn how to change your oil. Like you can't do that on Rumble.
Yeah. That YouTube definitely has it sewed up. You know, they have anything and everything. But like you said, the thing that bothers me the most is they don't give you if they would just tell you and say, hey man, this is what you did wrong. And then you could work on that.
Exactly.
But you don't even know what you've done. They might give you a guideline or say, hey, it was this or that, but there's no specific.
Exactly. We were talking back and forth with somebody on like through email that worked with YouTube, and they were like, and we were like, you know, what can we or can we not? Like when we were trying to find out just a little more in depth of what we were doing wrong. And they're like, well, we want all of our creators to be open-minded and post whatever they want. And it's like, well, I mean, that's obviously not the case.
Yeah, that's not what it is.
And just the inconsistency out of YouTube, you know, it's mind-blowing how they allow so many other channels to do worse than what like we're doing.
Oh, yes, a lot worse.
It's not so much the bylaws of YouTube. It's whoever's reviewing your video.
Yeah, it's who's reviewing it. That's the thing. Is the person reviewing it, are they open-minded?
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's the case.
Exactly, because their whole channel's in your hands, and even if they make a mistake, if they click that delete button, it's gone.
It's gone. Yes. That's it. It's over. And like the first channel I had, and like I said, keep in mind, I was not a YouTuber. I'm still not. But at this time, I was one of those like I didn't want to show nothing. I was one of the old guys that, didn't want to do nothing, help nobody or nothing. I was just stingy.
Yeah.
And so I had a channel for probably 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
And we had some videos on there they really wouldn't be on there today. That's for sure. But we put 3 bay pen videos up.
Yeah.
Of no contact, no nothing.
They stayed up for like 3 weeks, and then I woke up like one morning, and they had flagged them all, and so like they'd give me one warning on like one other bay pen video like the week before, and like if you have so many strikes within like 60 or 90 days, then they delete your channel. Well, then they hit me for the other 2 at like 1 a.m. in the morning while I was asleep, and then I checked. So I'd gotten all those notifications, and then the channel was deleted. I was like, oh, dang, they didn't even let me dispute it or nothing.
Yeah, they just like, boom, it's gone. And I just don't, like I said, when people I could not imagine putting as much time as you guys have put into yours, even in that short amount of time. Like I said, I had my 10 or 12 years. Now imagine if I'd been putting it out there for 12 years or 10 years nonstop, and then they knock your channel down. Dude, that changes your whole life.
100%.
And like you said, in your case, luckily, and I hate to say it like that, but I feel, I say what I say is I feel like it's luckily they got it at that early of a stage before you were, dependent on it.
100%.
And like I said, please don't take it no certain way. It's like, it's better early than later.
I'm with you 100%. And we were blessed in the fact that I know a bunch of people's channels got deleted and ours didn't get deleted, So technically I could still upload on that channel, but they started shadow banning me. And then at that point, it's like, well, then, what's the point?
Yeah.
So like I could have still continued to push and try to make it work. But once they got it flagged or whatever they want to call it, they're not going to cut you slack at that point anyways.
No. Because, I feel like, if I was shadow banned or if I got flagged like that, if I was going to continue to post, it's definitely going to get deleted.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be like, well, let me show you something then.
Well, and that was my thought behind it initially. I was talking with a buddy of mine, and I was like, if you're not monetized, you can post whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just going to push our merchandise. I'm going to push our guided hunts. I'm going to push everything else, make money elsewhere. And then I'm going to give people what they really want to see at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But shoot, on my newest channel, they deleted a video the other day that didn't show anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah. I'm not monetized, so that's why it kind of blew my mind that they were already deleting a video.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why would they delete it if you're not monetized?
Correct. And then you got I don't know if you've ever seen that Danny Duncan.
Oh yeah, that's what I was going to make the reference to a while ago. I was like, dude, the stuff that they do is ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's not just his channel. I didn't mean to single him out. It's
I watch him all the time.
Oh yeah, no, I do too because they're hilarious. But the list goes on, but at the same time, I don't want to call channels out and then something happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, you wonder if somebody was following our channel and flagged it, and it was a viewer more so than a worker.
Yeah,
if that makes
I think that's what happened on ours because it was just, I don't know, it was too specific and all at one time. Like I said, we haven't had any issues for so long, and then all of a sudden it's like bam, bam, bam. We were getting into the bay pen stuff, and that will. Let's see, I think we had one like 3 or 4 in a row.
Yeah.
And placed very highly right there. And then all of a sudden it was like, bam, man, and it was the bay pen video. So that's, I talked to like different people that were in the bay pen scene that, they're pro bay penners. And they told me, they were like, dude, your worst enemy is the one standing beside you. I was like, for real? And they're like, yes. And they're like, they do not want to see you win. And, I had no idea that, and that doesn't mean that all these people are bad or nothing like that.
Correct.
And it's not all of them. You know what I'm saying? There's one person out of 100, but that's all it takes is that one person.
Exactly. And they're out there. At the end of the day, there's no other way around it other than they are out there.
Mm-hmm. So you were talking about hunting all these different things, doing the deer and the turkey and stuff like that. How I've seen a lot of your turkey hunting stuff, And say I watched some of your deer tracking videos and stuff like that. Is that the only kind of game that you guys are after, or you got a wider variety? I know in Florida you got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, man, we got it all in Florida. You know, we apply for gator tags every year, you know, and that's a drawing type system. So you're not guaranteed tags every year, but every year that me and Ashley have applied, we have gotten tags.
Cool.
I had to go several years without applying because I got in trouble with the law for harvesting some gators without tags.
Yeah.
So once I was able to start applying, I was able to rock on with it and good.
I think we're going to name this channel the Outlaw Channel. I think everybody we've talked to at some point in time has had just a little bit, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you don't live life if you ain't got, you know, how you going to learn if you don't without going through it.
Exactly. Oh, I agree 100%. Like, and I do not fault you one. I would be with you. I'd be like, yeah, I'll ride with you. Let's go.
Yeah. When we got in dirt for that getting in trouble, we got very lucky that it was during season.
Yeah.
And we were able to convince the judge how they had been catching a bunch of our hunting dogs, and, you know, and we were wanting to get back for our hunting dogs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we fed them a line, so they cut us slack due to what it was, but I'd rather have all that money back either way.
Yeah, no doubt. I bet that gets expensive on the hip pocket.
You ain't lying there. But yeah, so we apply for gator tags every year. We do, I shouldn't say a whole lot of fishing. We do quite a bit of fishing. Like, we run down to the Keys for at least a week every year. My wife's family, they've got a timeshare down there. So we go down there, do some fishing. We've also got some boats, and we do some fishing right here locally as well out in the Gulf, and then freshwater as well. I mean, I'm an avid outdoorsman. At the end of the day, I do it all. I mean, turkey hunt, hog hunt, deer hunt, you name it, we'll get after it.
Sweet. That's what I'm talking about.
Especially if it involves a dog being along. We really like that as well.
What breed of dogs do you run? What style of dogs?
So for deer dogs, I've got walkers, my hog pens. I've got a combination of cur dogs, Catahoula leopards. I've got some with some walker in them. I've got some with, you know, just a wide variety. Heinz 57, we got a little bit of it all here.
There you
go. And that's as far as our running dogs or baying dogs or trail dogs. My blood trail dog, she's a Catahoula leopard with a hen Australian. So we got a little bit of it all. That's
cool. We've got, I don't know how many different breeds, but we got a lot of mixed breeds too, you know, and that's why I don't know. I just call them hog dogs. Everybody's like, well, what is that? When I was like, well, like you said, it's got Catahoula, a little bit of blackmouth cur, a little bit of Kimmer or mountain cur. It might have some bulldog. You don't ever know.
No. Yeah, exactly.
And honestly, sometimes I don't even know. And, you know, we've had them here for a lot of years now. So, but what's okay we got the breeded dogs. What style of dog do you hunt? Are you running like, you know, loose bay dogs, long range, or, you know, hot nosed rough dogs, silent dogs, open?
We'll be back after a quick break.
We would like to interrupt this episode to take a moment to thank our sponsors and friends of Dixie Doggers Podcast. Southern Cross Cut Gear, Boars and Broads, Hardcore Hog Dogs and Cut Gear, Showtime Premium Pet Food, Animal Housing Solutions, Tuskers Magazine, American Doghorn Association, 4L Kennels, Hogbang.com, The Boar's Nest, Crockett Taxidermy, Mud Creek Hogbang. A big shout out to all those people and companies who help make us who we are. Thank y'all.
So for me, I've got a pretty wide variety of type of properties. I've got all of those dogs. I've got loose band dogs. I've got a rough, tight band dog. I've got rough, you know, I would consider run and catch dogs, but with a little bit of brains behind them. You know, I don't have nothing that's a full blown idiot. I've got one that'll bark at one if he's big enough, and he'll grab it if it presents the opportunity. But when I go down to South Florida, like, I won't take my cold nosed dogs I'm taking all my cur dogs that are hot nose track, a little rougher, because that cold nose it isn't needed down there. And, you know, you could, it'd be, you know, it's a lot of people don't understand it, but like you're wasting your time trying to take them cold nose dogs down there, because I could put them out on a track and they could trail right by 50 head of hogs.
Mm-hmm.
With somebody that's never had a true trail dog like that, it makes it even harder for them to understand it. But when you put a true trail dog on a track, he's going to stay true to that track.
Yep.
So those dogs I don't even take down south. So, but we're able to run like some of our cast cold nosed dogs here around home. And what I'll do is I just try to get them started first thing in the morning, get them off out in the woods, and then we'll hunt around with our hot nose style of dogs.
There you go.
So just to mix it up, to keep the morning busy, while we might have a dog that's on a big track, you know, in the meantime, because it can take 2 or 3 hours for that dog to get that hog stopped.
There you go.
Or find it, for that matter.
Yeah. And in that, I mean, are you doing a lot of guided hunts like that, or is that more just your typical way of hunting all the time? Or
that's my typical way of hunting all the time. Even the guided hunts, you know, my guided trips, I treat them just as if they're any individual hunting with me.
There you go.
I don't do anything any different for those people.
Perfect. Because there's too many times I feel like guys that take somebody out hunting, whether it's a paid guide hunting trip or whatever, or if you just got some buddies that or some people that want to go try it. I feel there's too many times these guys are doing something. They try to change it up, you know, and they try to do something to produce more or whatever. And I'm like, if you just stick to what you know, I think you'll come out better.
Yeah, because you add way too much unnecessary pressure when you go to try to doing things like that.
Yeah.
If you were to just wake up that morning, call your dogs up and go to the woods and do as you.
Well, that's cool that you do the same thing, you know. I think it is.
I don't change anything up because, you know, the biggest thing for me is we're also videoing it on YouTube. So a lot of people know, like, man, why didn't you do that? Like, why don't you ever do any of this on your video? Or, you know, or I ain't never seen this dog before, or, you know, things like that. So that's the number one thing as well, is you don't want them to see something different on TV. And then when you take them in person.
Yeah. And it does make a difference, because just when you think nobody's paying attention, that's when they are.
Exactly. And there's people a lot more invested, like, into our channel than I would have ever imagined.
Yeah.
You know, I get people that email me and are like, hey, what happened to this dog? That was in the first video I ever put out. It wasn't even my dog. I just had it.
Yeah. And it's cool that, you know, you have fans like that. You know, people want to, you know, they pay that much attention to it, and you're like, dang, that's kind of weird a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it threw me off definitely at first, you know, and then people are like, man, do a video of us just meeting all your dogs. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, what the heck do you want to do that for?
Yeah.
We love dogs.
Yeah, we get some stuff like that sometimes. It's like, man, and like, you know, like to us and you and, like, you know, like Carter and Ryan, all these guys like that, we're just normal everyday guys that go do this. But there's a lot of people out there that look up to guys like yourself and us as well, you know, and it's almost like, I'm not saying we're celebrities, but I guess we are in a way.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean,
so we got to put out a good, you know, we got to put out a good persona all the way around for it.
100%.
But sometimes I do. I'm thinking, well, that's kind of weird.
Yeah. And I try not to make it seem that way. You know, you want to do everything you can to help and please everybody.
Yes.
You know, they're watching your channel. They're your biggest supporters.
Yeah.
But
they might be the reason that this will be, you can make a living doing it, you know?
Exactly.
But it's pretty wild, though. You know, when I was younger and growing up, we had nothing like this. We didn't even have cell phones back then, of course. But, you know, I couldn't imagine having all this at the end of my fingertips when I was, you know, early 20s or something like that. Man, it'd be pretty wild. I probably would have got kicked off real quick, though. I'm pretty sure. I'd got myself in trouble.
It's easier to do in them younger days.
Yeah, Lord have mercy. How much, like, on your terrain, the property that you hunt, you know, I know you probably got to deal with a lot of water where you're at, or?
So I've got just the wide variety of land that I've got. I've got some places that you won't ever even see water hardly, and some places that stay underwater year round. So we're able to mix it up, thankfully. But at the end of the day, I've always told my wife, like, if you ain't getting wet, you ain't catching hogs. So for me, I always enjoy going to them properties where we're most likely going to end up soaking wet.
There you go. Now, we were talking earlier, right before we started this, you said you had some stuff you wanted to, to talk back and forth with. So, on some of that, well, I don't remember what all you said, but.
Yeah, so we were, as y'all were talking on one of your last episodes with the hog ballers, and just y'all didn't really get in depth on the conversation, but it was mentioned between the open and silent dogs. What would you say y'all's dogs are, and then do you believe the true old mentality of an open dog's going to run a hog longer than a silent dog?
Okay, our personal dogs that we have are silent dogs. And we have a few here and there. It just depends. Sometimes they'll yip, if they get it up, if they get the pig up in front of them, or if they can see it, they might yip some. But that's going to be and the majority, probably 90%, will never say a word at all. Okay. And I changed to that style dog because it was a hotter nosed dog. It just in my my own lifestyle, in my own lifetime that I've had, more dogs that were open tended to be a colder nosed dog. So years ago we ran colder nosed dogs as well. Our property got smaller. We lost a lot of our big properties. And I'll be honest with you, even dogs that bump a little bit, they open up every couple hundred yards or whatever. All the way to the dog that's screaming when he gets out of the box. How fast is the dog?
Yeah,
that's all that matters. I mean,
100%.
Like it depends on the hog as well.
Yeah, if you got a hog, like Nate said, depends on the hog as well. Some hogs, I don't think they give off, because you've done it. We've all done it. You walk in and you're 100 yards away and you're like, man, smell that boar hog. And then the next time you go and you might not smell it near as strong.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And if we can do that, so it's got to take a toll on the dogs. But if that dog has enough speed, he's going to catch the hog whether he's barking or not. And like I said, I would rather run a hog for a while, a big bore hog. I'd rather have a race. That way we can get him wore out.
Yeah.
Because when you bust him and he's fresh and you get them rough dogs and they hang him,
he can do some damage.
You know what's happening.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that's why we, honestly, like I said, our properties got smaller, so we had to adjust. The hogs did tend to run more, but it didn't matter if the dogs barked or not; they were going to run.
Yeah.
Now we might hit the ninja attack on them every now and then and get them into bed. Yeah. And the reason we know that, because like we've been running GoPros on dogs for, a lot since GoPro came out, and we had a few years there we didn't run any because, I ran a lot of real rough dogs, so the footage.
We had a lot of older dogs as well. We already knew what they was doing.
Yeah, we knew that's why we run them. We weren't running them just to get footage. We were running to see what these young dogs were doing and which dogs were doing what. And now it's progressed into, we want some footage, Yeah. Now it's like, let's get some good footage. But no, I think that old age mentality, you can't catch hogs with a barking dog it's shot. Apparently they've never had a dog that had any speed or any bottom to it.
Yeah. And then you probably get that more so in Florida and probably the Georgia area, just based on the people that I talk to. But there's so many people here in Florida that are sold on that. If a dog's barking, he's running that hog 10 times longer. And the best dog that I personally have ever had would bark every breath. And I stopped just as many hogs with her. And she didn't run them very long. 9 times out of 10, the nut sack was cut out of him.
That's right.
By the time I got to the home. And she barked every breath. But like you said, it's all up to the dog, the speed and the personality of the dog. All of that goes a long ways.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. Like I said, I feel like that's such an open-ended question all the time, or open-ended conversation even, because when people think like that, And I'm not saying it's wrong for them that they can think however they want to, but I'm saying that it's wrong. You can catch hogs with open dogs. You can catch them with silent dogs, and we have had dead silent dogs run a hog for miles. For miles.
Hours, yeah.
Yes, and so it's like, well, why didn't it stop? It wasn't barking.
Exactly.
Like you said, it's just that people have to keep an open mind, and you can't hunt one style of dog all your life and hunt one place and think that you know how everything goes.
Exactly.
I think that's a big problem.
Yes.
There's so many people, they don't go anywhere.
Something you have no experience behind.
Mm-hmm.
Just an opinion.
Yep, that's exactly right. So how do you think about it? I mean, how do you feel about it?
I'm not. So the vast majority of my dogs are silent dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 of them that do open, and they'll bark. They're not going to bark like my deer walker dogs when they've got a hog jump, but they're going to let you know that they got one jumped, and they'll let you know when they're trailing. And I've got places where I might not carry them with me, but that's also at the same time I wouldn't even take a cold nosed dog to the place where one of those open dogs would would be anyways. So I'm not against them at all. I mean, it's hard for people to like see that I might feel that way because the vast majority of my dogs are silent. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you're catching hogs, who cares?
That's right.
They can bark every breath for all I care.
Yep. As long as it gets done.
Sometimes it is nice listening to that race.
Oh, I love it. I love listening to them. And it just, like you said, or like I was saying earlier, it's just one of those things where we had heard that same old thing over and over for so long. And there have been times where we have went and caught hogs that people have ran several times with open dogs, and we went and got him. We went and bait him in his bed. And the reason was, the dogs were silent. We made sure we were in a good location. We set him up for success, and the hog just didn't want to run. If he wanted to run, he would have run. Now he would pay. He'd have to pay for it. Ain't no doubt. But it's one of those deals where I just don't see why people freak out about it. It's hard to run open dogs and silent dogs together. We try not to do that. We try not to mix them up. All right, because our silent dogs, if you got a dog that's cold trailing and opening on track, our silent dogs, they're going to honor another dog. Then they go to that dog. But
instead of staying true to what they're doing.
Yeah. And I honestly, I don't know that it would matter if you raised them together and hunted them together like that, because we never have. If we go with somebody else who has an open dog, we try to find out first. We're like, hey, do your dogs bark on, try to do our homework. And once it gets to that point, if we turn them out and this dog is already located, struck, and he's trailing, once he gets hot and he's, he might be opening up pretty good, we'll throw them silent dogs to him. Because we'll pack them to him, because now we know the track's hot enough that our dog will run the track as well, and they're not just going to the dog barking.
Yeah, exactly. So like what you're saying, how you try not to run them together. There are many a times where like I'll run mine together, and it's funny how you can see the dog that's really working its nose in the dirt, and then that dog that's finally picked its head up because that scent's fresh enough. And I can even see my silent dogs, pull away. That's another thing we're blessed with these tracking devices now. You can sit right there and watch it all. But them dogs that are, trailing, got that nose in the dirt, they're too worried about smelling that scent on the ground, and they've slowed down tremendously. I shouldn't say tremendously, but they've slowed down compared to them ones that finally pick their noses up. And then, that's the difference in dog between silent and open. But I run them both together depending on what I've got going on. I shouldn't say every time I go to the woods, but there are many occasions where I run them together, and it's funny. It's fun to watch, those.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
Which it's fun to watch. That open mouth dog might be the one to find the hog.
Yeah.
But as they get to running it, that silent mouth dog's always going to pull ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say he's going to pull ahead. Yeah,
just based on their nose, not necessarily the dog itself. But
no, that's a good thing. Like you just said, a lot of people aren't thinking that all the way through. You have this colder nosed dog, he's going to trail it a little slower than a dog with his head up, even though the track's getting hotter. And it doesn't matter if he's barking or not. You know, that we're not even going to put that into effect, because, I mean, there's cold nosed hounds that are silent. And, you know, they don't bark on trail or anything like that. They're only going to move a track so fast. But I think, like some of the dogs like you're talking about having, you got this running dogs in them, and these dogs are fast and built for speed. So once they get that track going, I feel like they're going to have their head up more. And I think a dog with his head up is going to outrun a dog with his head down.
100%.
You know, and so I think that's where a lot of people fall back into that. Well, you can't catch them because of this. Well, no, it's not. It's the style of dog. It's the dog.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is you got to know what you're watching. You know, you got to know your dog and spending enough time with them. And most people I could take hunting, and what we just talked about right there, they might think that trail dog ain't worth nothing because it's so far behind.
Mm-hmm.
But I can guarantee you, if those dogs that had their heads picked up got thrown into some other hogs, that one that's got his nose to the dirt will stay through and go through whatever hogs that one running through.
Yep, he's going to stay true to that track. Yep, I agree with you 1,000% on that. Like you said, that's I'm glad you had that. Wanted to talk about that because that's just something that we don't get to talk about a whole lot.
No.
You know, with stuff like that, because, you know, doing a lot of interviews and stuff like that, you kind of lose. I ain't gonna say you lose anything, but we get out of the hunt part of it. That's
correct.
That's where we need to be. We need to focus into the hunt and the dog itself. You know, so I wish people would be open-minded for one thing, and then, like you said, they need to know their dogs. They need to know what the dog is doing. Yeah, I mean, you look at your Garmin. Like you said, we're all, most 99% of us, I'm sure, have a tracking system. And so you need to know what that dog's doing by just looking at it. And there's so many of them they don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, that's also what's going to lead you to be successful. You know, you can't set your dog up for failure. So you learn every time you go to the woods more and more and more about your dogs. You know, if you're going to the woods, ain't learning more about your dogs, then you're in the wrong sport at the end of the day.
Yes.
Because you never know too much, and you never can go to the woods too many times to still not continue to learn. You know, even my old mature dogs, you know, I still learn more about them because, you know, you run into, that's a good thing about hog hunting as well. You're going to run into a different scenario, dadgum, almost every time you go to the woods anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Ain't no doubt.
And there being so many different style of dogs, you know, it teaches you so much more to where you can learn so much more about them with dealing with so many different style and breeds of dogs.
Yeah.
And it really makes you tone in to learning more about your dogs, but you got to pay attention more. As, you know, like I said, most people would look at my trail dog and be like, man, that thing fell way behind. And it's like, no, she's doing her thing.
Yeah. Doing that's a tool in your toolbox.
Yes.
Exactly.
And on the you know, talking about the dogs and stuff, how important is the handle on your dog? That's been a topic like we've talked with probably everybody, you know, is because some people don't care. Some people, they want them wild and feral, and they're fine with it. But I mean, like I said, I watched some of your videos. I know how some of the stuff I know you want to handle on them. So, I mean, how important is that? And, you know, what do you have any tips or training tips or tricks or something like that to?
I was told at a young age, you can't make a house dog a hunting dog.
Yeah.
And I've done nothing but prove people wrong since day one.
There you go.
My dogs are my family. You know, they're more than just a hunting dog to me. So having a very good handle on them is the most important thing to me. You can be the best dog in the world. If I cannot catch you, to me, you do no good for me. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I've left dogs throughout the night before and went back and got them the next day.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so much about the handle on as it was just the hunt behind them and needing to do, meaning to just let them just keep doing their thing, and we come back for them, because the dog will learn a lot with that too. But for me, I want to be able to tell my dog to load up or come to me, or let them out here at my house, because all of my dogs, I'll let them out almost every day and spend a lot of one-on-one time with all the dogs.
Yeah.
Just because of how a really good handle is so important to me and what I do.
Yeah.
I just don't care for those full-blown idiots that you can't catch. And I ain't got nothing against those people that have them, because those are the same people that have told me you can't raise a house dog and a hunting dog at the same time.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think it was that mentality. I don't think it was necessarily, and like I said, I'm not trying to take up for that or nothing, because I'm one of those guys as well. The best hunting dog I ever owned slept with me every damn night, just about. They're my pets, they're my family, they're my buddies, they're my stock, they're everything. But I think a lot of those older guys and they handed that down through generations. Their granddad taught them this, and they taught their son, and it keeps going. But I think it was so much as like a lot of people were poor, and you couldn't afford to have a pet. And so that dog pretty much had to fend for itself, and then you took it hunting.
Correct.
And it had to work. So I'm not saying that that's what it is, but that's just my insight on it. It's like, I wonder if that might have something to do with it. Because my dad was the same way. He was like, don't pet them dogs. Those dogs don't come in the house. If you pet that dog, he's done. He ain't never going to hunt again. And I'm like, what?
and I will agree, and I will agree to an extent that you can ruin a dog.
Yeah.
Now you can't do too much at your house. For me, I've got a big yard. I got a lot of property. I got a bunch of woods behind my house, so I can let my dogs out and they could disappear out there in the woods. And there's some people in some places where they can teach a dog wrong and not realize that they're doing it. Now, if you have a smaller yard with no fence and you turn your dogs out and you're consistently calling them back, as soon as they get 80 yards away, you're calling them back. And then when you take them to the woods, you can't figure out why they won't go beyond 80 yards.
Yep.
You didn't realize you were teaching them wrong the whole time while you're raising them at your house.
Yeah, you set the range for them right then. You made them an 80-yard dog or a 100-yard, whatever.
Exactly. So that, there are some truths behind it in a sense, but, it takes a little common sense and thinking outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
And biggest thing is spending time with your dogs, knowing what you can and cannot do with them.
Yeah.
I've had dogs that I rigged a bunch, and because I do, as far as my style of hunting, I rig hunt. I'll turn them out on the road and road them up in front of the truck. I'll walk them in around some places. I ain't going to walk miles to try to find a hog track for them, but I'll get out there and walk around just to see what there is. But I've had dogs that I rigged too much, and then whenever I tried to get them out on the ground in front of the truck, they didn't want to get out on the ground in front of the truck.
Yeah.
So, just always mixing up the dogs themselves, where they never can get too comfortable doing one thing, where they get too dependent and not want to do anything else. So, that's the biggest thing is knowing your dogs, and that relates back to how you raise them at your house. You got to know what your dog can and can't do and what it can or cannot handle.
I think
as far as turning it out behind the house or taking it to the woods.
I think there's a good topic we could discuss right there. What you just said is having just a rig dog, or just a cast dog, or just a walk hunt dog, a dog that only does one thing. It tends to be like, I'm not going to say the younger generation, or maybe the generation that's hunted in the last 20 years. It seems like we want a more of a multi-purpose dog. I'm the same way. I've got one dog out there that is phenomenal. You put him on a track, I don't care where it's at, where it's going, he's going to do it. But he won't cast. Not the way I like him to.
Correct.
He'll road a little bit and he'll rig a little bit. But he's not great at everything. You get him, he's a little hotter-nosed dog, but like I said, you get him on a track, he has bottom out of this world. And it just drives me crazy, because it's like, dude, just go out, 1,000 yards or 800 yards or whatever.
But he won't bust two.
No, some days, like, he'll go 300 or 400 yards, but most of the time he'll only go a couple hundred yards, and that's it. And I mean, I've seen him run a track 2.5, 3 miles and sit there and stay bayed for 2 hours and never move. But he will not cast. And so it's like, how important is that to you? Because like I said, what you just said on that, and how rare do you think that is to have a multi-purpose dog?
I wouldn't say that it's rare. I don't know. I guess it's not rare around my house.
Yeah. I think it's becoming a lot more normal, really. Yeah.
100%. It's with people that I've hunted with for quite some time now. I wouldn't say that it's rare, because the multi-purpose dog has been around for the most part, since I got into the sport.
Mm-hmm.
With the I hunted around anyways. But it's I don't know. I guess it's really hard. I guess I don't know. I can't even talk now. But as far as saying that it being rare or not rare, I don't think so. Just because I've been raised around hunting with multi-purpose dogs. Now, now to go back to what we were just talking about, casting, that'd be a good topic. Yeah. With, you got kids nowadays talking about a dog that casts 800 yards, and I don't think people truly know what casting a dog means. With what social media has created for a lot of these people nowadays.
Yeah, like you said, everybody's like, and I'm guilty of it too. Like we were just talking, it was like he won't cast that way. I mean, he'll cast, but it's not to what I want.
You ask 20 people what cast mean, and you get 20 different answers. I've seen everything from Pawpaw Ronnie, when I open up the dog box, they better sling gravel coming out.
That's a cast.
Up to, I let them out, let them mingle around 5 minutes or so, maybe a couple minutes, really depending on the dog, and they go and find where they want to send them, and they kind of just guide them in that direction. And I've seen both catch pigs within 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And everything in between.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like I said, that's... So tell us what cast is to you. Or what it is.
To me, like you said, Paul said a little bit ago, you open up the box, there better be gravel flying.
Yep.
Now, that's my definition, or that's my thought process behind what cast is. I think a lot of these kids, because I get my inbox is slap full.
Oh yeah.
Every day of people wanting to buy my dogs. Or wanting to buy dogs. And then, I'll ask people, like, what are you looking for in a dog? And they're like, oh, I want a dog that'll cast 1,000 yards. And I'm like, if you ever even walked 1,000 yards,
you'd be like,
because I guarantee you ain't never even seen a dog cast outside of 100 yards. What, and I think a lot of these people are confused between casting being trailing and jumping a hog and going on and so on and so forth. And the fact of, whether there's a track right there or not, you cast that dog out in that block, and he's going to go hunt.
See, that's us. That's what we – and I hate it. I do. Dry casting. But that's what we do a lot of. Like, Rodney –
can't find no first sign.
I promise you, Rodney, we don't have a lot of hogs where we live at immediately. Rodney Bell's got some, and Rodney drives me crazy. He's like my brother. But, like, we'll be riding down the road. He'll say, let's stop right here. There's not a track. We haven't seen a track, and we don't know if there's a hog within 5 miles. And we send them.
And they might go 100 or 1,000.
No, they're going to go more. They're going to go more than 100. They're going to go 400 or 500 yards. They'll turn, and this is no sign, no nothing. Turn around, come back. He'll send them again. They'll double that. Come back, send them again, and they'll triple that, and they'll just continue to do that. Like it's ridiculous. But we catch a lot of hogs.
Hey, for me, I can't stand a dog being in or on my box for too long.
Yeah.
So I have, I'm not going to say every one of my dogs will cast, because not all of them will.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them are far from it. And just like you're saying earlier about, one of your dogs being more one way than the other.
Yeah.
There's some days that they'll cast well, and there's some days that it'll make you look like a fool.
Mm-hmm.
But what I like to do is ride around and if I ain't seen a track or something, because some of the blocks that we hunt in some of my properties, the blocks are so big that a hog ain't had no reason to come out of that block.
Yep.
What I like to do is send any of them dogs that'll cast. I'll send them out first thing in the morning, to get them out of my box, and then I leave them. I don't even sit there and wait to see what they do. I drive off, and I'll either go hunt a dog with a little hotter nose,
Yeah.
or I'll go to another spot and send out another cast dog. But I like to spread them out. That way it puts our success rate a little higher.
Oh, yeah.
Where we can have dogs in each flock doing their own things, and shortly someone's going to have something.
Yeah, somebody will have something going, yeah.
Exactly.
And see, if we hunted, I think if we had more people that hunted with us, and there's certain times, don't get me wrong, we have too many people. But, like, there's usually 3 of us that hunt together.
Yeah.
Me and Nate and Rodney and my brother-in-law Joe, whenever he's available now. He used to hunt with us all the time. But, like I said, life goes on. But anyway, so it's like we would do something more similar. But now, if it's just us, we let the cast dogs go and we sit there and talk a little bit or whatever, and wait till they get something going or till they finally come back. And then we'll move. But the way you're talking about doing that, honestly, seems like that would keep your production and your success rate a lot higher because you're utilizing more tools and covering more ground.
Exactly.
I could definitely see how that would factor in there.
And it entertains your morning. Now, if you had a group of people, you would catch yourself sitting and talking and hanging out. Like, that would be one thing. But if you're in the woods by yourself, you're trying to get the dogs on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to catch a hog for a video now for ourselves.
Oh, exactly. And you can get tied up and it's aggravating sometimes too, because you're like, you're serious. These people want you to take them hunting and you're seriously trying to do it, but they're not taking it serious because they're having a good time and you're thinking, look, just shut up. We're trying to do something.
Yeah, exactly. The competitiveness can come out of you a little too much at times.
Yes.
Whenever you're like, man, I have to produce a video or I have to get these people on a hog, at the same time, you're still doing what you always do and what you love to do, but you can get a little too competitive sometimes and it get in the way of just sitting back and enjoying it just a touch more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We took that a few years ago, didn't we, Nate? Just had to stop and
just get a lot of pressure on it.
Yeah. It turned into where it wasn't fun anymore. And that's when you really got to sit back and reevaluate everything.
Exactly.
We might have to go catch a hog here in just a minute. I think we got one out of the pen running around out there. Logan and them's messing with it.
Well, show pig or a wild hog?
No, we can't have any wild hogs here. But this hog it's like a mixed breed. If you didn't know, he's got wattles and he's black, long nose. Some people would think he might look like a wild hog, but he's not.
I got you.
You can pet him. He's more like bay pen stock. And, I've got him and a couple of sows I've had forever. You can feed him out of your hand, but every now and then he'll get out and want to be ornery. And so, you gotta work him a little bit and put him back up.
There you go.
And so, but he's a nice boar hog. He's probably 240, 250. He got some 3.5, 4-inch teeth.
That's how you get some good stock out in the woods.
Yeah. I wish we could here, man. I'm serious, dude. These hogs are built just right. You know what I mean? They're built perfectly. And you can't do anything. Like I said, we can't have a live hog at all. Every time, if you catch one in a trap, whether it's trap, dog, whatever, you got to dispatch it upon capture.
Oh, yeah.
And they changed those changed the law several years ago. Used to we could, but then they just changed it.
It'll be a matter of time before they do things like that here in Florida.
Yeah. We were talking to another guest, and he said the same thing. He was like, man, it ain't going to be long.
Yeah. I mean, the property around me is going away as quick as you could ever imagine. We have WEC right here, World Equestrian Center.
Mm-hmm.
So Ocala is horse capital of the world. And we've just got horse trainers moving in here as fast as you can imagine. And the price of land has skyrocketed. And they're cutting down here by the thousands, and they're cutting every bit of timber that they can cut to build them a jumping pen for their horses.
That's wild. So with that,
the amount of land I used to have in high school and right out of high school compared to what I have now is sickening.
Mm. And with all those new people moving in, so I imagine at some point in time, your dogs get on someone else's property. So how do you kind of deal with those landowners and kind of approaching that with like going and getting your dogs? Do y'all have a right to retrieve law in Florida or?
Yeah, so there is a right to retrieve, but there is also a fine line. It's like a gray area where some landowner can call it livestock.
Huh.
And then at that point, they can
Oh.
kill your dog legally.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So anytime I get land, I do everything that I can to meet landowners around, or at least get them on the phone and just talk to them. And not so much about, hey, can I hunt your land? But like, hey, I'm going to be over here hunting this land. We're running dogs, and we're more or less worried about the safety of our dogs. If you see one, know that we're always doing everything we can to get to them. But sometimes we might get caught up in something and one slips away and we didn't see, for an example, say I'm tying a hog, a dog relays, and 200 yards later, next thing you know, he's across property line. By the time I've gotten back to the truck and I realize that, it's too late. He's already across property line. So I try to talk with all those people beforehand. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it does not go well.
Yeah, kind of have some feelers out so you kind of know who's going to be well receiving of this and who's probably going to give you some flack, if not a lot.
Exactly. Exactly. So
I do everything. Bad instances?
I've had some, I shouldn't say I've had any bad instances, but I've had some neighbors that it's easier just to not deal with them.
Yeah.
I try to be the best individual that I can, and I try to be as understanding as I can. They don't have to like what I do. You just try to do the best you can to try to talk to people to get them to understand.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we do. We're not trying to harm you. We're not trying to harm anything else. But there's no reason to take a dirty way of handling it is the best way to describe it, I guess I should say.
Yeah, whether it be throwing a big hoopla or potentially injuring you or the dog or anything like that. I mean, one time when I was much younger, Dad and them were on a hunt, and these two dogs bait up a big boar hog on the side of the road, and that guy I guess he didn't like dogs and hogs, so he ran them all over. And killed one of the dogs, killed the pig, and then crippled up the other dog. And it's just like some people are just so upset about it for no instance. And then I've had other people, where the dog literally ran in their house when he came up to them and they were like, oh, it ain't no big deal. And they loved him. And it's always interesting to see which ones are well receiving and which ones just hate them.
Yeah. We've got one piece of property in particular, and the neighboring property owner, he's from Alaska. Mm-hmm. And so he bought some property down here, and he bought a fair amount of land. Well, this guy likes the hogs. Well, he wants the hogs there. And all the neighboring properties that I have permission to hunt, I have to remove them. Like, I can tie them up and remove them, or I can harvest them immediately. But either way, they have to be removed, or I'll lose permission to those places.
Yeah.
And so just going forward, and once I got in touch with this guy, the very first time we talked on the phone, it did not go well at all.
I can imagine.
Didn't go well at all. And it was like, and it went down to him calling me an effing idiot, thinking that he was like, y'all need to fence off your properties if you don't want the hogs there. And I could have answered it in many ways, but like I wanted to say, well, how about you fence your property off if you want the hogs here?
Exactly. Stock your own pigs.
Yeah. And he was dog cussing me, and he's like, I know when y'all are hunting, because when y'all hunt, these hogs disappear for a couple of days. And I mean, he is not a very kind individual. We've had a couple of run-ins. He's got to be bipolar, because he has also called me at times and just wanted to shoot the shit, like just wanting to talk like we were best friends. And I'm like, what are you calling me for?
Well, I thought you hated me.
I know a few people like that. Yeah. I know some guys that hunt around here that's similar to that.
I know some people, they won't do it at all. They will not tone and shock their dog off of a hog if they know it's going onto someone else's property. Will you?
What was that again? Sorry.
Like a tone or like shock your dog off of a pig, like, like, hey, they're running one and it's going on to someone else's property. Like, are your dog's tone broke to where you could get them to come back, or would you even do that?
All of mine are tone broke. I don't do it unless I absolutely have to. So there's certain places that they're going to get it, but most of the time I'll let them roll and I'll talk to the landowner. All of these landowners I'm talking to at some point, there's some of them that I'll be like, hey, I'm just going to call them after the fact, after we get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just a little easier to ask for forgiveness and then permission.
Yeah.
And sometimes those same people could not care one day, and then the next day they're like, yeah, liability wise, we'd just rather you not walk on our land. Yeah. And at that point, I'm like, well, I'm glad I just already went out there and got the hog and got the dog, and I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I guess we're pretty lucky on the property owners for, we haven't had to deal with a whole lot. They've all been pretty cool because like in our area, hogs are still fairly new. So if there's one hog on camera, most of the time they're going to call us and they're freaking out. And I'm like, well, it's just a boar hog traveling through or something, and, but if we're in an area and we're hunting, generally we'll have the neighbors, they'll stop by and see us outside or something, and they'll be like, hey, if you guys are over here, y'all get all of them, so we've been pretty lucky with that so far.
Yeah, Florida used to be like that. Florida, nobody cared. Also, realistically, nobody hog hunted.
Yeah, I think that's got a lot to do with everything now, because there's a lot of guys running dogs.
Yes,
a pile of people. There's a pile of people that own dogs compared to a lot of dog men.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's, that's also because there's so many landowners, you're losing a lot of your larger chunks of properties. That with the more and more landowners, you've had so many people kind of burn a bridge for them in the past, to where if I do get a new piece of property and I contact the neighboring owner just to talk to them, mm-hmm. and they're snippy with me right off the rip, that means somebody's already pissed them off in the past.
Yeah, and that I could see where that could really affect everything in those areas where there's a lot of a bigger population of hog hunters that use dogs. We have a small population here, and for years there was only 2. And it was, as far as I know, in a couple of counties, it was just me and Charlie Kilgore for a long time. And there might have been others, but I didn't know them or never heard of them. But I hunted with a couple of other guys, and they lived in different areas. And so, like I said, there was no hogs right here where we immediately lived. We never had to deal with that, Everybody knew us. They were like, well, that's the hog guys there. They're the ones running dogs. And everybody thought we were crazy. And then now it's, there's a group, and there's several groups of them that, that are hunting locally. And I think it's great. Now, don't get me wrong. I think it's great because I've got people that I have stuff in common with, and I'm lucky to be friends with most of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But I couldn't imagine if there was a huge population, because there's always 1 or 2 bad ones, and there's 1 or 2 around here that, I'm not saying they're bad people, but they have bad ways, and it can ruin it for us.
Exactly. I personally know a handful of those people. They just don't have no respect
mm-hmm.
for neighbors or landowners or anything like that. So unfortunately, there are some of those out there, and that's what ruins it for all the good ones. But that's just the things you got to fight through, and then just do your best to be respectful to those people, even though they might not be respectful to you when they ain't got no reason to be disrespectful to you. But you just got to continue to do good. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, when it's tough, to continue to do good.
Mm-hmm. And that keeps your name good. And that's what people don't understand. You can get a bad name very quickly, and then you start losing your properties. Nobody's going to want to go hunt with you or anything like that. And then you're basically an outcast, and you can't figure out why. Well, exactly. It's because of the things you're doing. You can't go and poach or trespassing and do all this stuff and be belligerent about it. You don't feel like you're entitled because you live in an area and there's property there that you don't get to hunt. that doesn't mean that you should hunt it. You're not entitled to it.
Yeah. Y'all would be mind blown by some of the messages I get from people. They're like, man, I got these dogs. Like, what would it take to come hunt with you? I ain't got nowhere to hunt.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome that you get to hunt during the daytime and watch your dogs. He's like, we have to hunt at night because we have to trespass. And I'm like, why are you?
Yeah, dude, that's crazy.
That's what we talked about last night when we recorded Borrowed Time Outdoors, and he was like, look, don't get a dog if you ain't got nowhere to hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, that's number one to being a dog man, is having somewhere to hunt. I don't care if your best friend has 2,000 acres. You don't have any land. Like,
that's right.
That's something that you have to put in perspective, because you have a dog and you always have to rely on that other individual.
Yes.
Well, like, depending on how you run your dogs, your best friend might not like the way that you run your dogs. And then slowly over time, if that's the case, he's going to start inviting you a little bit less.
Mm-hmm.
Now you probably have a couple of dogs and you still ain't got nowhere to hunt.
Yep. You got to have land, and you got to have an abundance of it. And guys like us, those guys out there that don't have big amounts of land, they think that we're being stingy with it because we just won't give it up to them and be like, yeah, man, you can go hunt all my stuff. A lot of them can go hunting with me. Hey, yeah, we'll go, but I'm not going to give you all the stuff that I've worked for. And like you said, there's a lot of time. I look at all the riding around, the shaking hands, the talking on the phone, and not just that, but putting up with all the bullshit over the years to keep your name at a high level. That's why you have property. That's why people call you. That's where that goes. And I wish some of these guys would get that. They think because they got 100 acres that connects to my 5,000 acres that they're entitled to hunt it. That's not how it works. Like you said, you got to have plenty of land.
Yeah, and Florida's probably the worst of all of it, because, like, as I mentioned, there's so many more landowners now. And then it's awesome that there's so many people that want to be involved in the dog hunting world. But if you're going to do it, you need to try to do it the right way.
Be responsible.
And I'm not going to say that I'm some angel and I ain't never done nothing wrong in my life.
Oh, come on now, Justin. Come on, man.
But the most important thing is, if I had a dog, I had somewhere to use it. And if there was ever a time that I didn't have somewhere to hunt, I didn't have a dog.
Yeah.
Because for an example, several years ago, I moved to South Florida for work. And, I was leaving everything behind. There's no point in me taking my dogs down there. So I gave all my dogs to my buddies.
Yeah.
And, the agreement is that sometime and point, whenever I get back on not necessarily on my feet, but get back to where I can have somewhere to hunt regularly and have a reason to own dogs.
Yeah.
I want to get the dogs back.
That's right.
And that's the most important thing is, putting dogs where they got somewhere where they can be busy. And then at the same time, with your name behind it, doing it respectfully in the right way.
And there's a lot of that goes on now with as many new hunters that we have coming in. You've got that many more dogs. And, you, like you said, you got rid of your dogs because, you didn't have to, but you chose to do right by the dogs. And you gave them to your friends and hunting buddies. You didn't put them on Facebook and sell them.
Exactly.
So and I don't get that part. Now, I don't get me wrong. I've sold dogs and I will. I'll sell dogs regardless. But if it's like truly really good dogs, top-notch dogs, my dogs, I would call somebody like you and say, hey, man, I'm not hunting this dog, or I can't hunt for a while. Take him and hunt him. And just like you said, I'd be like, well, if I get back into it or whatever happens, I'd like to get him back.
Exactly. And I can't express it to all these people enough that reach out to me. And that's one thing that social media has done is social media has normalized people selling their culls for $200 because they videoed it in their backyard baying a hog.
Yeah.
And they think it's a finished dog. Well, then I'll get people to message me and like, hey, for me, I'm not selling my personal dogs. I'm selling dogs that I've trained, put in the hands of another working individual
to put better dogs out there. That's what you're doing.
So there's a little difference in what I'm doing. I'm not just blasting all of mine on Facebook Marketplace, but like you said, I'm not selling. No one's going to sell their dogs. No one's ever going to sell their good dogs. If someone's telling you they're selling their finished dog or whatever they want to call it, they're a liar.
I agree.
There's no other way around it. They're a liar.
There's a guy that made a post, I think it was 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I don't recall his name. And if he's a listener, please, I don't mean nothing bad by it, by no means. He called enough bull on it from everybody else. He said, if you had 4 cur dogs that could do it all, he said, I mean, like, you drop them, they take off. You know, they're throwing rocks in your face. They cast far. They're accurate. Just the total package. And these dogs were, I think the youngest one was 3 or 4 and all the way up to 7 or 8 years old. He said, what would a pack of those go for? And everybody was like, well, you know, what do you mean? Are you buying them or are you selling them? He was like, well, I'm working and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to have to sell them. And first thing somebody had tagged me in or commented my name on it. I was like, well, wouldn't those go to your friends? And he was like, well, what kind of price? I was like, that is the price.
Yeah.
That's it. And then there was a lot of guys that, you know, you could tell they were hog hunters. They was like, well, dude, those dogs some of them could be priceless. They could be $5,000, $2,000. They could be whatever. He said, but if those are your personal dogs, why would you ever sell them?
Exactly.
You would hand them to the next person that was closest to you or somebody you knew really needed them that would do justice by them. I wouldn't sell my best dogs to just anybody.
No, not at all.
No, like you said, I agree with you like that. It's like, and that guy there, I don't think that I think it was another one of those deals where he has spent a ton of money, got these dogs, and they are good dogs, you know, but he hasn't been in it long enough to know what he's even got, you know. And because if he don't know what they're even worth, he's not at that level yet. And, you know, like I said, and that's like we were talking about with the properties a while ago. There's also, I wanted to bring that back up. There's also the other side of that while it's fresh on my mind. Don't get too many properties that you can't hunt them all. And I know a lot of people are like, well, how can that happen? Believe you me, it can. When you're the only guy around for a long, long ways, you can get so many to where you're running nonstop, doing all you can, and you just can't make enough appearances. And so, you know, during that time, I started the newer guys that were getting into it after I knew them for a little while, and some of them were friends of mine. I would let them have that property, but be careful on that part too, listeners. You know, don't get in over your head. If you don't if you don't have the dog power and the money,
Yeah, if that's the agreement, especially that you have with the landowners, don't lie to them. Yeah, because they're gonna know. You can see results.
Yeah, they're gonna know. That's a fact. Even when you think they don't, you're like, man. Because I've had some of them call me or text me, and they're like, "When's the last time y'all came up and hunted?" And I'm like, "I was there last night." And they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I mean, I was, but now I have to back up and say, well, I hadn't been there in 3 or 4 weeks before last night. You know, I knew I was pushing my luck and I need to get there and send, because normally, you know, I'll send some pictures or something like that to all my landowners. And just to show them, hey, we're taking care of business. And but you gotta watch that part too. I know there's a lot of young guys, they're trying to get land, and I don't know, you know, depending on how many dogs they had. Not just that, but, you know, how much can you afford to go? If you're not getting paid to go, it costs you.
Correct.
So, and that's like getting these dogs. Don't get 20 dogs if you can't afford to feed them, because it's expensive.
Yeah, there ain't no shortage of that.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. How many head of dogs you got?
I got 20. I think there's 25 out there right now. And that's a combination of dogs that I'm training for individuals. And a dog that I've got adopted and training to sell once she's ready, and then my dogs.
How's that going with the? Because you've been doing that a little while now, getting these dogs and then, you know, adopting them out. You know, but you're training them and they're ready to go when somebody gets them. Correct?
That's correct. And I tell everyone, you know, because that's also something that social media is created for the mind of these people. Is, you know, that's their question. Is it a starter dog or a finished dog? I cannot stand hearing that crap. Gosh almighty, I get so tired of hearing it, because 9 times out of 10, those people ain't never even seen a started dog, and they're wanting out a finished dog. But our success rate behind these dogs that we adopt and we're training, it's been very high. I mean, I've had several people reach out to us and tell us they're the best dogs they've ever owned in their life. And that's because they're out there. You just got to broaden your horizon, open your eyes, and quit looking to buy something online so much just because someone said that, like, hey, I done put this hog on, or I done put this dog on 30 hogs in my little pen. It'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
For an example, if I'm training a catch dog, I'm going to put it in every scenario that I may possibly ever deal with in my life.
Yeah.
Like in the woods before I sell it. Because I'm not going to put my name behind it if I've only been showing it hogs in a pen. Because that ain't going to do me no good if somebody's been a hog out there in a pond.
That's right.
And this dog won't go out in the pond and catch it. Or if it won't go up in some big, thick briars or something,
we just dealt with that. Dog has caught before, and the briars were so thick. It was a really young dog too, but it just like didn't know what to do. Hadn't been in that situation, but we taught it.
I can't put my name behind something like that and then it fail in the arms of somebody else.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing. And, that's with catch dogs or trail dogs or bay dogs or any of that, because I've adopted a little bit of it all. There's one dog in particular that we've adopted, and I've talked to the guy that now has that dog, talked to him quite often. We adopted one. They claimed it was GSP and pit mix. Most likely had some pit in it with how jug-headed and catchy he was. But I know GSPs that I personally have seen are rough as well.
Oh, yeah.
But he was just built a little differently than he definitely wasn't straight GSP. But either way, man, this guy, he says he rig hunts, and he was doing that with me when I was working with him. But he says this is the best dog he's ever owned in his life. Rig hunting him, turn him out on a track, it's just turned into an all-around multi-purpose, one-of-a-kind dog. And I got him from a shelter where anybody in the world could go get at any given. And what I try to do is I try to do my research online and looking at all these shelters and the dogs that they have available.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see that a shelter has a couple of them that I would like to go look at, I'll go look at them. Now, if there's only one dog, I probably won't drive. Depending on the distance between whatever shelter I'm going to, I probably won't go just to look at one dog, because the number one thing is making sure they're not heartworm positive.
Yeah.
So you definitely don't want to get a dog like that, or if I don't, and then sell it, and then who knows what happens if it's heartworm positive.
Yeah, it's just another issue, and that's what you're trying to prevent. You're trying to turn out the best that you can to make everything better.
Exactly.
And I think it's cool that you're doing
that.
Life.
That was the most important thing. Is there's so many people that message us on a daily basis wanting to buy my dogs, and my personal dogs ain't up for sale, but I can guarantee ain't nobody's checkbook big enough that messages me about buying a dog got enough to buy any of my dogs.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's where I was like, you know what, I'll find a happy medium. I'll go get these dogs out of the shelter. I'll give them a purpose in life. And some of these shelters I've gained a good connection with, and they'll call me. They'll be like, hey, we just had a really good one in. I think you need to come get it. Because they understand what we're doing and the process of, and just trying to save these dogs. Because a majority of these shelters around here are overrun with dogs. They don't have room for them because they're getting so many of them in.
That's crazy. And that, like I said, that's a good thing to do. It's all around good thing. I don't see where you can't win. Where nobody, the dogs win, people win, you win. It gives you something, another outlet, to do what you enjoy doing, and to do what you're good at, and then it gives the dogs a purpose other than being in a shelter.
Yeah, it's as far as going on, and it really just shows how much you enjoy working with dogs. Is because when you go get a dog from the shelter, you're not starting raising a puppy from a young age. You're getting a grown dog. It don't even know this new name that you gave it. Yeah. It starts from ground zero, teaching an old dog new tricks, essentially. And it's starting all the way from the beginning, teaching in its name. And then, shoot, come here. Because none of them do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, they if they're in a shelter, chances are they haven't had any kind of formal care, much less training.
Correct.
So I think that's pretty damn good there that you're doing that, man. And I'm glad that's working. I really am. So if I wish more people would do it.
We've had one shelter turn us down because they told us that we needed to keep the dogs. We didn't need to rehome them.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. They wanted to come do a inspection of my house and property. And I was like, all right. And they're like, do you have any other dogs? And I was like, yeah, there's a couple of them there. And they're like, well, we need to know how many. And I'm like, you really don't. I know it's you can get a feel for some people of how much information you need to provide.
Yes.
And not provide. Because some of them you can say, I have hunting dogs, and they're going to shut you down immediately. Well, this one shelter, when they found out that I was raising hunting dogs, they sure enough shut me down. I said, all right, well, how? I said, the county funds this place, doesn't it? Or the city, or I can't even remember what it was now. But I had done my research, and they're like, yeah. I was like, all right, well, let's just go set up a meeting and see what they think about you turning somebody down that's trying to adopt dogs and rehome dogs and help y'all out. Well, and long story short, went downhill from there, because at that point I was tired of talking with the lady. But that's somebody putting their want, thinking that a dog is living a life in this cage. And they're like, we turn it out in the yard every day. And those are the type of people that keep dogs in their apartments and think that they're doing a good thing for that dog too.
Yeah, and keeping them locked in a little cage.
And it's like, people wonder why they feel so bad and why they're sad. And it's like, well, you stay inside, you work an office job, you don't get any sunlight, you don't really do anything, you live a very sedentary lifestyle. And so you think a dog's going to be even happier doing that to an even more extreme? An animal that requires twice as much as we do as far as work. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Too narrow-minded to see what a dog is actually meant to do in life. And not every dog is made to hunt, but every dog is made to do something other than sit in a crate.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
That's just like when you take it out and you turn it out. When you take it out of your apartment and you take it to the playground or whatever, that thing's wide open, chasing squirrels, chasing kids, like wanting some form of job.
Yep.
Yeah, and once you channel that and you get it you harness that and you get that going toward pigs, hey, you got it whooped in.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I can get that son gun going toward them armadillos, though, pretty good.
Hey, if you ain't got a diller dog, you ain't never had a dog.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so, we were talking a while ago about us having to dispatch all the hogs. How many times do y'all ever dispatch any, or do y'all tie everything? And I know y'all tie and bar, but how often? How do you feel about having to kill hogs too?
It doesn't bother me a bit. If I have to do it, I have to do it. Yeah. I enjoy being able to castrate them and turn them loose, just because of feeding my family more so than anything about catching the hog again with bigger teeth or any of that. We all like trophies, so it is nice catching them with the big teeth and whatnot. But for me, it's keeping my freezer full. We buy the minimal amount of anything from a grocery store. We got our own garden, and as far as meat goes, we don't buy meat. As far as all the game we hunt, our freezer's full.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
That's my biggest thing with castrating them and turning them loose, is so I can provide for my family more so than it is about the fact of catching it and turn it loose to catch it again another day. To me, it's a little more in depth, but if it's something that I got to kill them, I'm not against it at all.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm going to kill them, I want to put my hands on them. That's for me, because I just enjoy. Anybody can go out there and shoot a hog.
Yep.
Me, it's about getting my hands on them and being, one right there with the dogs and everybody working together.
That's right. We were talking about that the other day. It's, the primal instinct, that's what we've been doing since the dawn of man. It's like, that's what men do.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
that's what I feel. And men and women, there's women to it, but I'm just saying like that as a hunter, gatherer, provider, husband, father, all that to me, that's rolled up in one. That's what a man does. And I think we're probably some of the very few that actually would go to that length, you know. But and that's an everyday scenario for us. We enjoy it. That's what we want. Like you said, we want to put our hands on it.
It fulfills that purpose.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's like
I don't feel accomplished if I mean,
yes,
there's no ever chance of me shooting one. Now, this next video that I have coming out on YouTube, I forgot my cut vest for my catch dog, and we were in an area where one of my dogs got killed, and I thought I had that hog bait up, so I was like, all right, y'all. This is something, you know, in the video I'm talking about. This is something I don't like to do, but I'm damn sure not putting my catch dog. I'm not setting him up for failure.
Yeah, no. There's times where stuff happens. You know, you got to be, and that's being prepared also, and that's thinking ahead. You don't want to put your dog out there to get just shit wrecked, and then you're down a dog.
Yeah. So
over ego.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to swallow my pride a little bit, and I carried my rifle into each bay that day and somehow caught hogs and did not have to shoot any of them.
No joke. That's pretty good there, man.
but yeah, I mean, as far as me shooting a hog, it very, very, very rarely happens, because if I don't get to catch them, then, you know, I don't want no part in it, because that's what it's all about for myself anyways.
On the catch dogs, do you just take one catch dog, or do you use two? I mean,
as far as like walking, as far as walking to a bay, I only carry one with me. I've gotten where I do carry both catch dogs with me to the woods, and I alternate between the two throughout the morning. Yeah. That way, if I'm hunting and something ever happens to one while we're hunting, I have that other one there.
There you
go.
Know,
even if say a hog whooped us and something happened to that dog and he couldn't finish catching it, I'm still not going to shoot it, unfortunately. And then that's why I started carrying another catch dog just in case. But when you run good cut gear on your dogs, I mean, I'm not going to say they never get cut, but it seems to happen a lot less when you prepare them.
Oh yeah,
with good stuff, with good equipment.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt. And you have two catch dogs. How big are your catch dogs? You got what? A male and a female?
Correct. My male, I would say he's roughly around 65 pounds probably. That's and nice. Then the female, she's probably about 58.
Okay.
Nice. I honestly, I typically like them to be a little bit bigger, because I like a little leg on my dogs, and that adds weight to them as well. But the dad to both of my pits, he weighed 82 pounds, and he had a lot of leg under him, and that's what I really liked. And for whatever reason, the breeding, only a couple of the puppies really kept his leg and length, and they just happened to be the ones that I didn't keep, which not a big deal. I don't have nothing bad to say about my dogs at all, because they've been phenomenal.
There you go. And so,
yeah,
what cut gear do you run?
Southern Cross.
Southern Cross. Yeah, that's we're Southern Cross. Yeah, you can't go wrong with it at all. There's several makers out there, but to me, there's only two, maybe three that I'm going to lace up. Southern Cross is definitely one of them. Hardcore be the other one. And like I said, and I'm not saying none of them are bad. These are the ones that work for me and my experiences.
And years and years of testing.
Yeah.
The dad to my two pits that I have right now, I had him for 11 years. You don't keep a catch dog around long enough without wearing the proper equipment.
That's right.
I mean, Southern Cross has always done phenomenal for myself. And I mean, I've tested out a bunch of them, and I ain't saying they didn't work like you just mentioned, but Southern Cross just seemed to fit what I needed and wanted to a different degree.
Yeah. And like I said, and I know some guys right now, they're running 4R, Swamp Dog, and they're the same way. That's their brand. I mean, it's just like with boots, or tennis shoes.
Exactly.
Everybody's got their own thing, and it doesn't mean that it's better than the next one. And I don't want to, and I'm trying to explain myself because I don't want to get it misconstrued where people are saying, well, this is the only thing out there. There's a big variety. We're talking about what works for us where we're at.
Correct.
You know, 'cause I know there's a lot of guys in Texas, man. They're 4R. I mean, and Texas and Louisiana right through there, and they love 4R. And I actually have a 4. I think I got 2 4R vests. And now mine are old. They're older. That's when Miss Teresa had it, and they were made for my smaller dogs, my Jags. You know, and back then, man, hardly nobody made vests for those little dogs. And like I said, they work great for us. But generally, we run the Southern Cross, and what do we run, the boar bib?
Yeah,
the Aussie style.
Yeah, the Aussie style pro plate.
Yeah,
it's
the
probably
pro
my
plate.
favorite.
Yeah, that's what we've been running.
It's just basically like a shorter strike vest.
Correct. Yeah, I've got one of the strike vests, and I actually bought it for a dog that I had that me and my wife several years ago got into a bad wreck. We had a drunk driver wreck into us. Long story short, killed all of our dogs, all but 2 of them.
Oh, man.
And bought the vest for one of them dogs in particular. So like after that, it kind of got hung up. And now I use that vest for my pits as puppies, getting them adjusted to vests and just walking them around the yard. And then I get them started with that strike vest. And then for my mature dogs, my catch dogs, I run that Spec Ops vest, which I've grown to really like a whole lot.
Yeah. It's nice. It's a nice piece of equipment. There's no doubt.
To not be made out of the seatbelt material, it's extremely flexible.
Yes, that is indeed. Indeed.
What's your Garmin setup like? What's your setup like on it?
I've got the 300i and the 100. I've got a handful of those. What are the newest ones they just come out with? 25 collars?
Yes.
I've got a handful of those, and I've got some of the whatever the long battery. I can't even keep up with all of them.
I know. They get so much stuff now, man. It's crazy.
I basically got all of the collars.
Yeah.
Between still, and then but I've got the 300 and the 100. I'll never get rid of that 100 handheld.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. I love the 100s.
They're tough.
They are durable. The only gripe I ever had with it was, and it could have just been mine, but the battery life wasn't great. And like I said, it was probably mine because I think 2 months after they originally came out, that's when I got mine. 2 or 3 months, and I've had it up till this year.
Yeah.
Or was it this year or last year?
Last year.
Yeah.
So I've had it that many years, never changed the battery, never done nothing to it. So, it could just be that.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would definitely agree that mine doesn't last the longest. I wouldn't say that mine didn't last long enough where it aggravated me. But I alternate between 2 handhelds. Whenever I'm in my truck, I'm looking at my 300 because it's hooked up to my big screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not even grabbing my 100. And realistically, the only time I even touch my 100 is when I'm walking in the woods. So it just sits up on the dash the whole time.
I got you.
As soon as you go to clicking on them buttons, that's when it just eats up the battery a little bit more.
What kind of setup are you running on your screen?
I've been running an iPad.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I'm not saying for whatever reason, Garmin knows what they're doing, but they've got it where that app, my 300 is not tracking over 600-700 yards when it's hooked up to that iPad. And as soon as you turn that iPad off, it'll go back to tracking normal. And I've got my 300 hooked up to a long range antenna at all times as well, since it stays in my truck. And that's something that's just started within the last month and a half, maybe 2 months. And I didn't realize it. I was getting aggravated. I'm like, why the heck is my 100 taking up a mile and a half away with a regular antenna? And my 300, which is hooked up to a long range antenna, is dropping at 700 yards.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
And I talked to one of the dealers right here close by, and they told me about the whole iPad deal. And so, long story short, they're trying to get you to buy that tread.
That's what I was thinking to say. Is probably to get you, because that's what we were going to. Like, I've had the drive tracks, and so I was like, I wanted something bigger. So the Tread XL, I was like, well, that'll be my next thing I'm gonna get. Then I was like, no, I'm just gonna run an iPad. And I'm glad you told me that, so that way I don't,
Well, we just had a buddy switch over to the iPad, so we need to ask him if he's been having the same issue.
Yeah, we need to check into that too and see. because like I said, for a long time, man, we hunted out of side-by-sides, and the previous years before that, we had four-wheelers, and then it was trucks, and now we're going back to trucks. It just, I don't know. I don't take as many people. There's not as many people riding with me, should I say. Yeah. So now it's like, I can put all my stuff. I got a little Toyota, take off,
Yeah. One thing I did last summer instead of using it.
Not having to hook up to a trailer and haul everything, that truck and roll on.
Oh yeah. I love it. It can be a little aggravating sometimes because it's like, I have it's this little small Toyota, it's not even an extended cab. And sometimes it can be a little cramped in there, but at the same time though, man, it's convenient.
No doubt about that. Yeah. Some of our places, we can't even hunt off side-by-sides. So it's just easier for me to just not have one then.
Yeah.
And I've got my everyday truck and then I got my woods truck, but I've always made sure I kept my woods truck a 4-door. That way I can fit. Me and my old lady, we pack snacks and we pack this. Pack that. I got to have that little extra room, no matter.
Well, we've got a Tundra, an older model, like was it 05 Tundra 4-door, and that's what we originally were going, and we still hunt out of it.
That's what I've been shopping around for.
Yeah, it's I love it. I mean, V6, little 6-speed, got plenty of power. It's good. It's really good on gas. It surprised me how good it was.
I've got a Tacoma that I'm going to look at tomorrow. If all the boxes check, I'm gonna be ended up purchasing it because it's just too good of a deal.
Yeah.
For what it is, for what they want for them trucks nowadays.
Oh man, them things are ridiculous. That's why I've got one. I think I've got a 1986 model out there, and if it hadn't been for the deal that I got, I wouldn't have bought it. But like you said, the trucks, they go for a lot of money.
100%.
They got a resale on them. I mean, if the thing will crank up and run around here, it's $5,000. It don't matter. It can be beat to hell and back, but it's like if it'll crank up and run, it's $5,000.
Oh yeah. Well, add a couple more to that if it's in Florida.
Oh yeah. Well, now I was talking to Scotland Air. That's what me and him. He's the one that told me. He said, if you don't buy that truck, he said, I'll buy it. He said, I promise you. I said, well, I'm thinking about it, and I talked to a couple other guys, and they're like, dude, that's cheap. That's real cheap. And they were talking about in Florida, they's like, it'll be $7,000 or $8,000. Because this has got like the little flatbed kind of deal on it with a headache rack. It runs great, 4-wheel drive, 5-speed, little 22R in it. You can get in it and drive 2 or 3 hours each way, no problem,
And you can get wherever you want with that little truck too.
Yes, sir. I call it my little peanut wagon. I don't know why, but that's what I call it.
That's right.
But like you said, I can go anywhere.
Me and hunting trucks, I find out what they're made of. If that Dodge Dakota that I had, we just totaled it for that Boars and Broads tournament.
Yeah.
I had Cody and Connor come down and hunted one of my properties, and so they just brought their dogs down and we hunted out of my truck. Well, the road was washed out and it was flooded where you couldn't see it, and my whole front end just crashed down to where it was washed out.
Yeah, that's what Cody was okay, that's what Cody was telling us. Yeah.
And so she was done at that point.
Total. To the limits.
Yeah. So you made sure that you said, okay, this is as far as it'll go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you get you one of them little Tacomas, man, you'll probably just go right on through that hole and keep on going, no problems.
That's right. Well, if Dodge would have seen what that Dakota did for me,
yeah,
they'd give me a couple.
I was going to say, they'd give you yeah, there you go. I told her. Go ahead.
I was thoroughly impressed with what that little Dakota could do.
Did it have the V6 in it or the V8?
The V8.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Them little dudes right there. That's a lot of little power in that truck.
Of enough. And it would crawl.
I had one of my cousins, he had one, and that thing, boy, I mean, there was a lot of nights and a lot of cotton fields. And, we shouldn't have even been there most of the time, but it would go. There ain't no
Oh,
doubt.
yeah.
All you had to do was squeeze on it.
That's right.
So you got anything else you want to throw out there? We were talking about before we started. I didn't know if you had any other questions or any other topics or anything you wanted to touch on.
Trying to think. I think we kind of touched on them for the most part.
Yeah, I was going to say some form or fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, without even bringing them up, we did pretty good on hitting on all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
As far as I guess a pro and a con between social media and what it's done for y'all, what would y'all say some pros have been for y'all?
Getting to talk to people like you and getting to meet real dog men out here in the world.
Meet some real genuine people from all over the U.S.
Without a doubt. We have met some of the best people you could ever imagine. And then the con would be I've met some of the biggest assholes you've ever imagined.
Biggest crybabies.
Crybabies. Lord have mercy. Like I said, that. But in all honesty, the good outweighs the bad.
Tenfold.
Yes, tenfold. That has been one of the best things for me. I think as far as the social media stuff goes, I was never trying to do this the way we're doing it now. Honestly, it just kind of kept going that direction. And it's just, I'm not saying that I want to continue and try to go a whole lot much more and get real big or anything like that. That depends on the people out there, not us. All we can do is what we want to do,
Exactly. Yeah. But it's been like you said, the good outweighs the bad all day long. And that's the number one thing, meeting great people, expanding our ways, I feel like I've learned so much more.
Oh, me too. I've learned a lot of stuff.
Little things that you just never thought about.
And there's a lot of stuff that it's kind of validated as well. You hear from, if I talk to 10 guys out here that do the same thing, and whether they're younger than me, older than me, or same age as me, and we all do it the same way, it kind of, gives a little concrete on it. It's like, well, I'm doing something right. Exactly. It validates it. And so it gives you, it can boost your confidence as well.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And so it's, I think social media is a good thing for the most part. It can work against you in several different ways. You can stay on there too much and just hurt yourself. But at the same time, if you're doing it from the business aspect of it, it's a great tool to have.
100%.
But you got to be very careful because that's the only bad thing. You don't get it's almost like you don't get the a write up or a yellow slip and saying, hey, you got to do this or that. They just cut you off. Bam.
Exactly. Yeah, they don't hold back on that part.
Yeah. So that's one of those deals. It's a two-edged sword, and you just got to take it for what it is. So, but man, being able to talk to guys like you, and like I said, we appreciate you taking your time and sitting in on as a guest for us because. You've got a lot of followers. You got people that watch you, and it gets our sport out there in a positive light. Yes. So maybe this thing will continue.
Thing for me, yeah, that's been the most important thing with me is trying to put the good out there to show that there's, and we touched on it earlier because because the availability of land is becoming less available. But the hunters are still growing. More people are still getting dogs, and tends to be a little bit more of the ones that are ruining it.
Yeah.
For all the good ones. So that's been my goal, is trying to put a good name out there, and just a spotlight on hunting dogs are not just a tool. They're a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
They're some people's families. Some people might not look at them that way. But I can promise you they're not just a tool in their backyard either. They mean more than what they may advertise. So that's been my most important, is getting that out there and shining a light on it, good light on it.
Yeah, and I agree. That's because for so long that was one of those things that was preached in a different way. It's like, like you said, a lot of people, they didn't want to show an emotion toward a dog. They didn't want to pet that dog while, after they hunted and be like, pet them up and talk about how good the dog is. Like, you know what I'm saying? They just kick them in and out of the box. That's it.
Yep.
And I'm like you, I don't agree with that for myself. If somebody else wants to do it, that's fine, but it ain't hurt my dogs and it ain't hurt your dogs. You can pet them and love them up and they'll still go hunt.
Correct.
So I would, maybe people would take that more into consideration instead of just getting a yard full of dogs. And because they don't go hunt and they're not all superstars, they just cull them and move on. But that's part of it. You do have to do that in certain instances. But like I said, it putting it out there in a positive light, that's the most important thing that we all can do.
Yep. And we all got to come together and keep doing it.
Yep. Ain't no doubt.
The only way it'll stay around.
Yes, because like I said, it can be gone in the blink of an eye. So, well, Justin, like I said, man, we really appreciate that you taking your time and doing this. It's been great talking to you. Maybe
yes, sir.
Maybe we'll get to talk to you some more in the future.
Yeah.
Bring your butt up here to Alabama. I know you want to climb these mountains and hollers with us. So.
Oh yeah, no, I enjoy it. Well, I went up to West Virginia running bear dogs, and I did a lot better than I actually thought I would be doing.
I love it, man. I love it. But anytime, man, you're welcome up here with us. If you ever get the itch where you just want to see a different change of scenery, our dogs ain't that good, but we can find a pig here and there. You bring yours up here, I bet you we find a bunch of them. So,
or some armadillos, one of the two.
Oh, we definitely find them. So, well, all right, my brother. Well, I appreciate you. Until
y'all have a nice night.
All right. Thank you, man.
Buddy.
We'll see you.
We'll see you.
All right. All right, everybody. That was Mr. Justin Becker, Not Normal Adventures. Make sure y'all check all his stuff out on social media.
Have it all linked down below.
Yeah, Nate's going to have it all linked down below. And I'm going to have to cut this outro pretty quick because I've got, I don't know, several people are messaging us wanting to call in about the Shankathon hunt. And we got to get that thing rolling. It starts tomorrow night. So, till next time, thank you. Get off your ass and on your feet, out shading in the heat. Let's get busy. Keep it rolling, y'all. See ya.
Thank you.